There we go. Hello, hello, everyone. I'm your host, Carol Abrahamson. We have a terrific treat for you today, a masterclass about author empowerment entitled, Don't Wait for Gatekeepers, How to Take Your Author Future into Your Own Hands. You're going to learn a ton of super useful information that many authors miss ever learning about. I'm so excited you're here taking in this essential information, and I'm especially jazzed to have Nick Courtright as today's publishing expert. Nick is the founder and CEO of Atmosphere Press, a literary hybrid publisher that provides meaningful and rewarding experiences to writers. He is the author of the poetry collections, The Forgotten World, Let There Be Light, and Punchline. His latest book on poetry interpretation is In Perfect Silence at the Stars, Walt Whitman and the Meaning of Poems. His writing has been featured in such publications as Harvard Review, Kenyon Review, Boston Review, Southern Review, and Spin Magazine, among many others. He was recently named one of LA Weekly's 15 book coaches to watch, and has been interviewed for Authority Magazine, Valiant CEO, and on the website for The Best American Poetry. In addition to the University of Texas at Austin, where he received his PhD, Nick also has received degrees from Texas State University and The Ohio State University. And he's taught at a wide range of public and private educational institutions. His team of 40 at Atmosphere Press recently published their 1,200th title. You can learn more about Nick at atmospherepress.com and nickcourtright.com. And I'm going to spell Nick Courtright for you, NickCourtright.com. And feel free to reach out to Nick directly through his email at nick@atmospherepress.com. Now, let's get to it, shall we? Again, our topic is Don't Wait for Gatekeepers, How to Take Your Author Future into Your Own Hands. Welcome, Nick.
Thank you for having me.
I love the work you do at Atmosphere, and I'm thrilled to have you here today. So let me ask you, let's start with, who is this topic for?
Yeah, I think this topic is it's one near and dear to my heart, because I know of a lot of writers who sort of let the dream of writing fade away from them. It slips through their fingers. They spend a lot of time working on a manuscript or thinking about working on a manuscript, and then they try to get the book out there and they end up running up against wall after wall after wall, or dubious characters online or agents who don't respond to them. So really, this talk is for those writers who, want to take some next steps. They want to see their work treated well, but they maybe don't quite know what the next step is, or they're frustrated. They're getting offers from places that aren't reputable, or they're just receiving crickets in response to their queries. This is hopefully going to be a little bit of encouragement and pep talk, and also just direct, truthful information on some next steps that those types of folks can take to sort of grab the power back in terms of their work and its future.
Terrific. So what are the best ways for authors to take control of their publishing destiny and become empowered?
Yeah, so I think a lot of times people get hung up waiting for gatekeepers. They sort of are still romancing that traditional idea that they need to have an agent, or they need to get an advance or have a traditional publishing deal. And the truth is that that works for some people. That is the right path for some people, but it is a very, very small percentage of people. So it's kind of akin to, being a gambler and saying that you haven't actually made it until you win the lottery. It's just kind of an absurd, rarity that is only available to a small cohort of people, and chance does play somewhat of a role in that playing out. But I think that there are a lot of authors who end up waiting around hoping to win that lottery or, get that ticket. But it's not even necessarily something that ultimately they might want. They might want more control over their own writer destiny. So what they can end up doing to take some steps to empower themselves is just to decide not to wait. Make the decision that they don't need the approval of a Harper Collins or a Penguin Random House. They don't need to you know sort of, in a sense, like almost make themselves subservient to a publisher in an asymmetrical power dynamic, right? Where the publisher or the agent has all the power, and they, as the author, need to kind of supplicate themselves and sort of grovel in hopes of getting some love. They can start taking some next steps now to see their book out into the world, to have it come out on their terms with the types of cover design that they want, with the type of editor that they want, with the type of, promotion that they want, that's something that they can have for themselves. And that hasn't always been the case, but it is now.
So, what role in this do contracts play? And what advice about contracts would you give authors? And what mistakes should they be sure to avoid?
Yeah. So the thing is that contracts are a very important part of publishing. And a lot of authors, if they do end up getting a traditional publishing offer, they're just so excited about it that they sign the contract without actually reading it or paying attention to what it says. It might give away all of their royalties or an insanely high percentage of their royalties. It might force them to undertake a bunch of marketing hassle that they actually don't want to do themselves. Like, a lot of times people are under the impression that a traditional press will do a lot of publicity for you, but in many cases they won't. They're just going to try to obligate you to do publicity to sell the book, right? And other things like where they're not actually, it's not clear to the author what they're getting out of this relationship, like what services are being provided by the publisher or service provider. Is the author keeping the rights to the work? So these are all incredibly important issues that sometimes authors get, I think, a little bit out over their skis on, or they just want to treat it like it's like when you update your iPhone or something like that. They send you that, oh, agree to the terms, and it's like 100 pages of fine print, and everybody just clicks like, accept terms, accept terms. It's like, I don't even want to read this. But when it's your book, when it's something that important, like you kind of need to know what's going on. So with that in mind, for Atmosphere, one of the things I decided right from when I founded it in 2015 is that we wanted to be, one of our founding principles was transparency. We wanted to be clear about things. And with that in mind, like nowadays, we actually have our website uh, publicly makes available our publishing contract. So we believe in the contract, and we believe in its fairness to such an extent that we just make it publicly available. You can read it right now if you want. And it makes clear that authors keep their rights to their work, that they get 90% of their royalties, the things that are going to be provided for them are very clear, and that they have, final artistic say over a number of aesthetic choices. And that's just one example. Like, I'm by no means saying that everybody should publish with Atmosphere. That's not going to be the right choice for everybody. But knowing your contract, being clear about what the terms are, and making sure that some of the major sort of things that are out there that do protect authors are in place.
Cool. Very cool. So, are the options that authors have to take control different for any of the three publishing paths?
Yeah, they're vastly different. So if you're going to, self-publish, you can just sort of go and do it. You can do it right now. You can go chuck your book up on Amazon KDP like by the end of this, discussion we're having right here, probably if you wanted it. It doesn't take terribly long, but obviously with that, there are quality control concerns, right? Because everybody, even the most talented author, like people think like a writer a lot of times is a solitary being. But an author is not a solitary being. An author has editors, they have designers, they have publicists, they have people who help guide them through the, at times, Byzantine avenues associated with distribution and trying to actually get your book out there. So in self-publishing, you sort of forego a lot of that, right? You're just like, I'm a lone ranger, I'm doing it on my own. And that works out great for some people who really want to, take the effort and the hours and hours of labor it takes to, educate themselves on that. They can be successful self-publishing. But obviously, the vast majority of self-publishing authors, you know, end up having a little bit of a hollow feeling about it because it was just something that they were doing on their own. And maybe the book didn't ultimately turn out like as professional as they wanted. So there's a range there. In terms of, traditional publishing, again, like you can end up losing your rights. It can be great if, HarperCollins comes knocking with a $300,000 advance, it's going to be hard for somebody to turn that down, right? But that obviously is usually only reserved for people with a substantial following already. Somebody who has hundreds of thousands of Instagram followers, who is famous from their like lay life, their normal life as an athlete or a movie star or something like that. And then they've got to make those choices and usually have an agent to help them do that. And then, of course, there's hybrid publishing, which is what Atmosphere Press is. There are other hybrid presses out there as well. And if you're working with a reputable one, they're going to be selective. Atmosphere is not a vanity press. We don't publish just anybody. They're going to be selective. They're going to walk through the process with you. They're going to be forthright and straightforward about, what your choices are, what your, possible outcomes are, what is being provided to you in terms of editorial design, publicity, things like this.
So, what are the questions that authors on each of the three publishing paths should be asking when they're choosing a trustworthy and professional publishing team to work with?
Yeah, I think one big question to ask that I think a lot of people don't ask is, who are these people? Right? As crazy as it is, it seems like that would be really obvious. But somebody, if they're signing on with a traditional press a lot of times, or with, a self-publishing service provider, or with a hybrid, they're not actually digging into who are the human beings behind this. Right? Like if you sign on with Penguin Random House or you sign on with a self-publishing firm, like who are you actually going to be working with? Do you have any insight into that? And a lot of people now, I think, and forever really, have been signing up for a book publication experience without really knowing much about the people who they're going to be working with. They might be signing on with a label, like a name brand, for example, without actually knowing who's behind it. That's one reason why, we were really careful and sure that we wanted our masthead to be really clear. Like I recommend all of you just go to, different publishers or self-publishing places, traditional, hybrid, whatever, and look at who their team is, like who's working for them. A lot of websites don't even say. That's usually a red flag. That means that there's a decent chance your work might be outsourced to somebody. It might go to some, person who's only worked for that publisher for, 1 month. They might not work for them next month. They might be just some freelancer that was found, or, it might just be like a one-person show. A lot of like small presses are like that, where it's like one or two people, which can be great and a wonderful experience. But also it's a lot of pressure to put on that one person. On our site, we have our whole team listed. You can see who, our production director is. You can see who our publicity director is. You can see who the art director is and our cover designers. You can like look them up online. These are real people. Their faces are there. They have a presence on the internet. So you can actually get a little bit more of that humanity behind things. And I think that that's something that all authors should be thinking about, regardless of publishing path, in addition, of course, to all the contract stuff.
So are there any other points you want to make before we move into a bit more about atmosphere and also your gift for our listeners?
Yeah, so I think, also another thing that's a good sort of practice to do is to look at testimonials or, success stories or, just commentary from people who've worked with any, press that you've been considering. Do they have testimonials online, and do the testimonials seem legitimate? Because I've seen some websites where they'll say like, "Oh, it was really great working with this person," but then you like look up the name and you can't find it anywhere. And it's like, did they just like make that person up? So watch out for like ethics violations. That's one reason why, we always wanted to have like both written and video commentary, so you can like actually see the author like there in a video holding the book in their hands talking about it, because nothing's more real than that, right? So at least now, and maybe in 5 years all that can be deep faked, but we're not there quite yet. But yeah, so I think that's an important thing. And I think just, message wise, in terms of not worrying about gatekeepers, right? That's what this whole sort of conversation really I want you to think about, is that you are a writer. You put all this time in to, making a book, making something amazing. And it's a lot of work. Like writing a book is a lot of work. I've done it myself. I've had 4 books published. It is a pain. Last uh, my collection that came out in 2021, I think I worked on that for like 9 years or something insane. It was grueling. My nonfiction work on, literary interpretation, I worked on that for 7 years, right? Like it's a lot of love goes into this. And too many writers, I think, end up getting stonewalled when they put that last period on the book, on the manuscript, and then it comes time to turn into a book. But really, the choices are out there. They didn't used to be. If this was 30 years ago, you would have been sort of dead in the water. There wouldn't really have been much that you could do if you didn't find, a traditional publisher. But now it's a different world. It's been democratized, and a lot of authors are doing, hybrid publishing or self-publishing, going out there, selling a lot of copies, making a platform for themselves, like growing their mailing list, their legitimacy, growing their opportunities in their careers, and winning awards as well, like getting acclaim, getting 5-star reviews from starred reviews from places like Kirkus, getting attention from Publishers Weekly. And like that didn't used to be the case, but now it is. So I encourage you, all authors, to, don't feel like you need to wait around, for a unicorn event. You can go out there and create your own unicorn event.
That sounds great. Great advice. So what makes atmosphere the right choice for authors?
Yeah, so I think really, the biggest thing is that we are not obsessed with being big. I think that that is something that helps, like beyond the stuff I already talked about. We got a great contract, we've got a great team, we've got award-winning authors, like we have all of these things. But I think beyond all of that, it's the fact that we are really sort of intent on not getting huge and just trying to get better, right? Like just be better at this, like offer more publicity to authors, offer better cover design, offer better editorial, like continue like upgrading our staff and upgrading our offerings and like making it just a, better experience. Like I'm on the meetings with my team all the time just about how we can just make this, service better for authors. So I think that that's, a major differentiator. We're not, some firm that's just trying to churn out a bajillion books. We're not interested in a volume game. We publish quite a few books every year, but we're not interested in going crazy. We don't want to be publishing 1,000 books a month or something nuts like that. Like we'll leave that to, companies that maybe want, venture capital funding or something like that, or want to get bought out. Like that's not what we are. Like we're a press that's, you know, built by authors. I'm an author, our other leadership staff, they're all authors. They've all been on, the author side of things. They're not just hired guns or business people. So I think that that's, a major differentiator for us is just that human touch, our dedication to retaining that humanity and those ethics and staying small enough that we actually know who our authors are.
Super. Well, again, how can people reach you? Let's go through that, either at the website or through your email. Can you give us that information again, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got a bunch of great stuff on our website. It's just atmospherepress.com. And one thing that we really care about is being able to help authors regardless of whether they're working with us or not. Because obviously we're a hybrid press, like that requires the author to invest in the project, right? It's like it costs money. Like we know that, we understand that, but we don't want that to be a barrier to us being a service in the writing community. So we have a lot of resources out there beyond publication. We have a huge archive of articles to help authors with tons of questions that they might have that we've put together articles with answers. We have a publishing potential quiz on our website where you can go and just answer this quick 10-question, quiz about, how you feel about publicity or cover design or, what your goals are for your work. And we'll give you like direct guidance, whether that be steering you towards self-publishing or traditional publishing or working with us. Or what next steps you should take to help generate content for your manuscript if your book isn't finished or you haven't even started yet. So we've got a lot of stuff like that. We also free book giveaway through our website, where authors of ours if they can opt in to give away free copies of their book. And so we've got that as a thing on the website. So that's all, great stuff that you can access just by going to atmospherepress.com. You also, of course, can, reach out to us at books@atmospherepress.com or me directly at nick@atmospherepress.com. Because we're always, looking to be in touch with people who are interested in writing and publishing and, trying to make a difference for themselves.
Well, and you also have a gift for our listeners. So can you tell us about it? Tell us how it works and how our audience can access it?
Yes, absolutely. So let me go ahead and do a little screen share here so I can show it to you. Okay, so here's our website as you see. And this is where we have all sorts of stuff. You can see like about us, all sorts of information about our background and what we're built on. We have a writing residency in Costa Rica that's really amazing. These are the principles that we were founded on. Then we've got, of course, our team page with, all of the people who are part of Team Atmosphere, like working to make this happen. We have, like I mentioned, all those video testimonials of people who've worked with us. These are all awesome authors. And then, we've got our packages that you can review. And our contract, as I mentioned, is all up here. And then there's the quiz. You can see that. And of course, the submissions page where you'd be able to just fill out a submission, get in touch with us. We really take a lot of pride in not taking an eternity to get back to people. A lot of places will take months and months and months to get back to you. We try to make sure that we have some insight for authors within 2 weeks of them submitting. So if you submit a manuscript, like we'll be in touch soon. We'll try to, find out more information about you, see if we're a good match. And if you are potentially a match, you'd be able to have a phone call with somebody on our team. And that's, of course, like all free. It's just like a service that we provide. And then, of course, the gift. So the really cool thing here that I think might be awesome and appreciated is we do have a author interviews series that we run. You can see this URL up here, atmospherepress.com, free author interviews with hyphens in between. If you just check that out, you can go directly to that because this is actually something we don't have in the menu. Okay, so that's the secret. That's why it's a free gift. We do author interviews, but we don't give this out to just everybody. Okay, so this free author publicity interview, it's for people who have projects in progress. It's for people who are close to publication, people who just are starting writing, because we want to hear from people at all stages, not just a lot of times author interview series are only open to people who already have a book out. We want to hear from people who are in the trenches, like, hey, I'm working on chapter 3 right now and it's killing me. Like, we want to hear those stories. We want to hear the enthusiasm of like, oh, I just finished my manuscript, it's done, and now I have no idea what to do next. Like, we love to get those stories. So by going to this sort of hidden page here, you can just fill this out and you can submit the interview application form. So these are mildly selective, if it seems like have never written a word in your life, you might not necessarily be the right fit for this. But we do plan to give out a good number of them. So, throw your hat in the ring, and there's a good chance then that you would end up in this author interviews section where we do, conduct interviews with authors. And then obviously, like, our website gets a lot of traffic. It's, a good little piece of publicity and legitimacy for your own, writing endeavors. Because we just want to, help authors, with their work, with their writing, and also with, helping themselves, get noticed out in that greater world of readership.
Wow, what a terrific gift. And again, you don't have to be a client of Atmosphere Press in order to get picked, right, Nick? Anybody?
Correct. Yeah, anybody. It's open to anybody. So, it is that hidden link. So this is special that, if you're watching this, you get that sort of direct access. But yeah, it's open to authors regardless of publishing stage, and you do not have to be an Atmosphere client to be eligible.
Wow. Well, Nick, thank you so much. That was a terrific rundown of information for the last half hour. Thank you so much for sharing so much of your knowledge and wisdom with us. We learned such valuable information about being able to take control of the process. What a concept.
Yeah, it's strange, right? Like, who knew? Authors could, like, writers can also take charge of their author journey. They don't need to just hand that off to somebody else. They can still be, sort of keep their hand on the wheel a little bit.
And what a wonderful time we live in where that's all possible, because as you mentioned in one of your answers, that wasn't always so in the world of publishing. So this is just a stupendous time to be an aspiring author or a half-done author or a completed author, all of the above.
Absolutely.
Again, listeners, you can learn more about Nick and Atmosphere at atmospherepress.com. And you can let me know how you liked this session at executiveauthors.com. I'm always glad to hear from you. I want to thank everyone for being with us today, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.